All right. I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know some more people are coming in. We have a series of webinars today at NOCO focused on learning around TISMO and ITS topics, and excited to continue to cover this important area of workforce development in general. My name's Adam Hops. I'm with the National Operations Center of Excellence. And with me today is Jennifer Portnova from North Carolina DOT. Jennifer is going to present first on the Transportation Operations Manual Technical Committee. This is important because it's Jennifer's going to discuss sort of the next steps with the TOM and talk a little bit about the committee that developed it over time that Jennifer led. To create this fantastic resource. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the National Operations Center of Excellence website and how it's going to be evolving through the year to meet the needs of the TOM and to help those who are using the operations manual to help them by providing, case studies and specific resources that speak to all the knowledge that's in the manual itself. Before we get started, I'm going to do a little bit of polling. We want to find out what you know about the TOM and where you sort of where you're coming from and what you're looking for in terms of using the TOM. So on the screen up there is the TOM webinar series polling, and you can see that there are 4 questions. So please scroll down to participate in all of the questions. And as people get started on those, and again, reminder to scroll down to see all 4 questions. As people get started on those, just a reminder that this is the third in the series on the operations manual. We've done 2 prior webinars. The first one was the overview. It was Jennifer and John Hibbard of Georgia DOT gave a fantastic insight into what's in the TOM, what it is, what it isn't, and then followed by 30 minutes of great conversation with attendees on, how to use the manual, how it can be applied to other groups. Jennifer talks also about how she's instituting the use of it in North Carolina via a book club format, which is a fantastic idea. And then the second one was a presentation from Raj Panaluri at Florida DOT, and he really dove into the emerging topics section of the manual, emerging technologies and emerging industry topics, which gave a good understanding of how the manual can be used for some of these more cutting edge topics or things that are on the cusp of deployment but maybe aren't mainstays of every TISMO program. So I'll put links in the chat, but those are all on our website as well as in the on our YouTube page as well. So we have good polling coming in. I'm going to leave this up for those who haven't answered yet. So once you answer, the polling goes off the screen. So please continue to work on those. And now I'll turn it over to Jennifer Portnova of North Carolina DOT. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I'm going to talk about the technical committee, the Transportation Operations Manual Technical Committee. So just as a reminder, some of you may know this, but the TOM was developed through an NCHRP research project. And during the development of that, there was a lot of transportation operations professionals that had input into the manual, and it was published in May of 2023. And the goal of this manual is to be a complement to other manuals that we use in transportation, like the Highway Capacity Manual and the Green Book and the Highway Safety Manual. And so, as you could imagine, when you develop such a big manual as this one, that needs to be maintained and sustained over time, and updated periodically, particularly because in this manual, we're talking a lot about technology. And so AASHTO, under the Committee on Transportation Systems Operations, who is shepherding this manual, created this TOM Technical Committee to be the keepers, I guess you could say, of the manual and how it gets updated. So We know that the practices that we are doing, since they're technology based, evolve over time. And so with the structure of the technical committee, they're going to provide guidance for implementation, for revising and refining the TOM. The committee also will oversee any technical and editorial corrections and clarifications. Our first goal with this manual is to get people to read it. We imagine that as people read it and start to use it, that they're going to have some comments about what's in it and what needs to be clarified, and then any potential additions that need to be added to the manual. And of course, there will be new research that's going to be needed as emerging practices. And so this is kind of the world at which this TOM Technical Committee is thinking. So not only implementing the first edition and trying to market the first edition like we're doing now, but also actively planning for the next update to the manual. So members of the TOM Technical Committee represent all regions of the country and multiple disciplines, and ones that are closely tied to TSMO and the industry. So here on this slide, you can see that we have some leadership. The CTSO from AASHTO is the lead, but we also have partners with Federal Highways who are part of the leadership team. We have 12 members that are representing CTSO from the regional areas that I mentioned, that I showed in the last slide. And so 3 members of each of the regions make up the 12 members from CTSO. And then we have members from other AASHTO committees on safety, design, traffic engineering, and maintenance that are a part of this committee, as well as some partner agencies that are helping with, guiding the manual. So you see ITE, ITS America. Not all of the members of these organizations have been identified just yet. Part of our first year of getting this committee put together is figuring out who needs to be and what representative will be on this committee. We do have our majority of our 12 members identified from CTSO, but we're still working on some of our partner agencies or associations. So the mixture of representation allows the TOM Technical Committee to consider diverse sets of TSMO practices, regional context, and perspective. So some of the members that are part of the 12 members have different expertise. So some of them represent committees for CTSO, like the technical committee or the operations committee. So our intent was to try to get a diverse set of experience within the CTSO or within the TSMO community. There's regional coordinators that represent each one of the MASTO, NASTO, SASHTO, and WASHTO. There's a regional coordinator assigned to each one of those that part of their effort is to do some outreach efforts and facilitate feedback from users in the manual. So there's several different ways we're trying to tackle the marketing, but that's one of the ways from the committee specifically. So what's the vision of the technical committee? It's the widespread adoption of the TSMO strategies into practice. So that means that we want to consider TSMO throughout every step from planning to maintenance of the transportation system development and delivery. And through that, how do we get there? And the ways that we get there is essentially to promote the TOM, encourage its use, and shepherd the evolution of the manual. So promotion, which is what we're really into right now, promote the manual, making sure we reach, we have outreach to as many practitioners as possible. That's our top priority right now. We're promoting the manual at regional meetings, at conferences, industry associations on an ongoing basis. This NOCO webinar is part of that outreach that we've been doing this for a couple of months to educate the TSMO community. And the goal is to get the manual into as many hands as possible so that we can move to the updates or the feedback. So we're wanting to get feedback on what's in the manual so that we can provide some guidance for future updates to the manual. Because Tismo is so fluid and evolving because it's technology-based solutions. There's sections of this manual that are already out of date. We realize that. And so we want to be prepared for what we need to update in the next phase of the manual. Similar to other technical manuals, Tom is a subject to periodic updates to refresh content, incorporate new practices and technology, and other industry documents. So coordination with those documents like the Green Book or the Highway Safety Manual, if they're updating and we need to include something, vice versa. And that happened even as this manual was being developed, as there was coordination between our committee or our group of developing the manual and the groups that shepherd those other manuals. So these steps includes getting input from state DOTs, other practitioners, and throughout the technical committee's activities, and recommending updates to the manual for future additions. And then advancing, so leading advancements to the TOM as it evolves. To accomplish this, the technical committee is monitoring new trends, identifying research that might be needed, advancing the state of practice for TSMO, and then developing companion resources as needed. We've talked about some things that are already being worked on, like a TOM implementation guide. If you've heard me talk about, and I'm not the only one that said this, so we're stealing this from other people who have said this, the TOM is like the menu of items that you can pick from. The implementation guide that's being worked on is like the recipes of the things and more details about how you can implement some of these TSMO strategies. Things like that will be components of the manual or components of supplementary documentation for the manual. And if you're interested in a more organized, structured way to go through the manual, because I know it's really hard to find time to really read, independently read a manual, the implementation committee for CTSO, so it's the Working Group on Operations Implementation, is led by Susan Clausen of New Hampshire and Colby Frontier Brown of Maine. They're facilitating a review and discussion of the TOM as part of their ongoing work. So as an example, in February, they looked through or talked through chapter 3 and 4. So they have, you can see in this presentation or on the slide that they have meetings scheduled throughout the year, and they meet approximately every quarter from 2:30 to 4 Eastern time. If you are interested in participating in this review, you can reach out to Robert White with AASHTO, and he can get you on his email address is right here. Well, you see it. You can't see where I'm pointing to, but you can see on the slide. You reach out to Robert and he can get you an invitation to this review. And with that, that is my last slide. Thank you.
Jennifer, thank you so much. If the group has questions, we can take them at the end. Please feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat pod. And I know that some of you looking at the participant list have been on our previous webinars as well. So if you have any sort of general questions that might have related to the last webinars, feel free to put those as well. We will have time for discussion. So I'm gonna share my screen and show the NOCO website. And the idea here is, let's see. You can see the website up on the screen. So the website you'll notice is orange for National Work Zone Awareness Week. We turn the website orange on the Wednesday of the week and keep it up. And I know many of you are participating in events around that. As you can see, there's the Transportation Operations Manual right there on the front, available for purchase. If you go to the NOCO website now, you can get a link to where that's at within the AASHTO publications process. So NOCO is in the process of aligning our resources to meet the TOM. Now that means a number of things. So what I'm going to walk through is some things have been implemented, some things are in the process, some things are coming down the line. But over the next 4 months, you'll see these things unfold. We've decided to do it slowly through the summer, and then we'll do a larger announcement and a how-to and a feature of all the videos at CTSO annual meeting. But we wanted to be able to share it with all of you because we're hoping that you can start to look at this, and if you see any issues or any needs or that would work better for you or your team as you're either searching for resources in general or using the Tom, you could let us know. So we're considering this sort of a slow rollout through the summer, and it'll be finalized at the end. So the first thing that we've done, and you'll see this on the website if you go, is in our Knowledge Center, which contains more than 2,500 resources from that covering everything. You'll see that we've changed in our advanced search, which guides the taxonomy for all of our resources. You'll see that we've organized it around the sections of the Tom. The first part of the Tom is institutional, organizational, and process issues and chapters that are there. And the second half or majority is on the tactical elements that are here. This came directly out of the table of contents and structure of the Tom. The original Tom, led by Les Jacobson, he did a fantastic job sort of outlining how the website could move in this direction, and you can see it here implemented. You'll notice that some areas don't have as much as others. So, for example, we have organization and workforce resources, but maybe not the subsections, whereas other areas, we have freeway management or event management. You can see all the subsections have resources. This was quite a bit of work to move all 2,500 resources in the NOCO website under this new taxonomy, and we're still in the process of doing it. So a lot of resources here will start to be built out under programs that maybe they weren't there before as we moved it, but all the resources are still findable and accessible either via this advanced or search here. And you can see also it shows here how many resources are categorized under these areas. Now, resources can have multiple areas, so all this doesn't necessarily add up to 2,500, but you can see the amount of resources within each area. Unsurprisingly, our old staple and backbone of TSMO, traffic incident management, is the highest here. Given the theme of the week, if I go to work zone management, it shows it here as the filter, and I hit search. You can see it's all the work zone resources come up here. So the idea is, and I'm sorting by what's newest. The idea is essentially that if you're inside the Tom and you're working on you're working on work zone, your team is looking at various work zone, it would be chapter 20, section 4 that's in there, that you can take a look at. This is an example of smart work zone case studies that we did a webinar on a while back, late last year, that covers especially the data feeds, and that it's related to the Tom chapter that's here. Eventually, everyone will also be linked to look at other work zone related webinars, work zone related case studies, work zone related resources. This is part of that slow rollout that I mentioned, but essentially we're trying to tie the user experience of the website to somebody who has the Tom open on their second screen, and or is perhaps in a meeting working with the team on a particular area, and can go look for resources and other examples that are there. This works for case studies as well. If you're in our case study library, you can also see back on the advanced search, you can search by these chapters just by themselves with the chapter that you're in. You don't necessarily have to search by the item. So the two ways to access that. And then another feature that we're implementing through the summer is to be able to grab resources by agency. So we're just having to start to build this out through all the resources, but you're going to be able to search anything that's related to any agency, either state DOT or local, through here, so that there's a better connection around that if you wanted to hone in on a specific work zone case study, for example, to make that search possible. Now that's nice and good, and we hope that improves the resources or your ability to access resources. But the thing that we're excited about is once that's complete, we can start to build out portals that are directly related to the operations manual. And some of those subject areas, high level subject areas that you saw in there. not sure we'll do one for every single aspect of the TOM, but now that everything's categorized within that new fresh taxonomy that will remain the same or slowly evolve through the processes that Jennifer outlined, we can start to construct you know, focused portals that allow people to learn more directly around particular subject areas. On a webinar that earlier today that some of you might have been on, NHI talked about their TISMO courses, for example, and the various high level and direct level TISMO courses on specific topics, or even just planning for TISMO that they have. They're rolling out new ones through the summer. All that's fantastic. And the idea to be able to combine, those resources and our goal to always be a one-stop shop, essentially we'd be able to have a portal perhaps on program management, and you'd have all the resources in there, which would include trainings from NHI on setting up a TISMO program, as an example. So we've started doing this already. Traffic incident management is a decent example for this, where we've had this for a while. We have access to Talking Tim webinar series that's on here. We have links into other areas of Tim, and a portal here. I mean, the next step for us through the summer will be to have a drop-down menu of all the case studies that are right here on the screen. So that's where the website is moving there. Now, Jennifer mentioned a few other upcoming projects. That the TOM is the the recipe book, and or the TOM is the how-to, and the recipes coming from the implementation guide. There's a few other upcoming projects as well that'll be happening through the next few years on clearinghouse of items, the implementations project that she mentioned, and new tools that we're hoping to implement at NOCO to essentially gather more resources. We've been working to add resources to the website as long as we've been in existence, but a new push is going to be available now with this new taxonomy to add those resources in. And one of the things that we're hoping to be able to do is to talk a lot about implementation and sorry, I'm going to change my screen here for a second. Implementation and where it's happening across the country. So for example, we're able to do these types of, excuse me one second. We're able to share these types of maps around implementation. So this is for ATM projects that are around the country. This comes from a list that our friends at TRB's freeway operations group put together, a subcommittee within there that Dan Lukasik and Athena Hutchins put together. And you can see that projects here are searchable by state, and you can list down to find all the projects. You can also look at the specific categories, active demand management, that are in here, and it'll filter out the states that have them and show states that are here. So this is something that we keep up and check in every few years, but we're going to be looking to do more of this as we get into the various TOM portals and those implementations about updating and tracking the projects that are out there. This is a state level map. We'll also have a map that speaks for local, regional, and other agency projects. So showing you this now because one, this ATM project database is available, and two, we'll be doing a number of this kind of tracking going forward, and certainly appreciate any updates or outreach that anybody has to keep us up to date as we do these projects. That includes high level things like if you have a new TISMO page or you're doing a new outreach for TISMO, we want to track that and be able to show it and give people access to it. If you're have specific case studies that you've published or documents that you've published, we want to make sure we get those into the NOCO Knowledge Center and track that to these maps. We've been housing the Knowledge Center for almost coming up on 10 years here soon. And the use of it is fantastic, and hundreds of thousands of people every year are accessing resources on the website. But we're looking to deliver these now that TISMO is mainstreamed in a lot of the country. We're looking to deliver these resources in a more direct way to you and your teams, knowing that you will have that Tom open on your second screen quite often. So that's it for me on wanting to talk about NOCO's ongoing support for the Tom. Would love to hear any questions that anybody has in the group. Jennifer, while we wait to see if there's any questions coming in from participants, do you mind just briefly in a minute or two talking about how your book club is going in North Carolina?
It's so much fun. Oh my gosh. They are so creative. So we've had 3 meetings so far. No, we've had 2 meetings so far. We well, 3 with the in-person meeting, but we did a Jeopardy type meeting the first time, and which was the topic was systems engineering, which is a challenging topic to talk about. So they were as creative as they could be. I wish I could show you some clips. I'll probably text you some clips of the YouTube video. So the next team was programmatic, like how do you set up a program? And they did a combination of like an interview style where they interviewed someone and presenting on. They did a little video to start with as the A team, but they changed everything from the A team beginning to be about the people that were part of this group. But they spent more time talking about how North Carolina was how we have implemented the things in that chapter, like our TISMO strategic plan and the business case that we made to get, TISMO dedicated funding. So a lot of that was geared towards specific things in North Carolina. But I laughed out loud at least 2 or 3 times through that presentation. Yeah, it wouldn't be as funny to y'all if you didn't see it, but one of the people was talking about the capability maturity model. If you break it down, it looks like a pyramid scheme, and they promised it wasn't a pyramid scheme, so it was really good. And then we've got another group doing a Jeopardy type thing, but with real participants. The first one was sort of orchestrated and organized where they knew who the contestants were. This is going to be more live contestants. So I am so glad that we did this, not only because it forces people to get familiar with the Tom, but also because it was a great team building exercise. And the teams are getting to know each other, and a lot of these people who work in the teams don't actually work together often, because TISMO is so diverse in itself. When you say TISMO, got signal people, you got ITS people, you got real technical electrical engineers, and then TIM coordinators who outfield. So this gave everybody an opportunity to really meet new people that they hadn't met before. And so we're very excited about this. I'm excited. Some of them have stressed a little bit. They want to be overachievers like I am. And so they really are putting a lot of effort into it, but I think it's really going well. So I can't wait to see what we have for the rest of this year. I could gush on and on.
Up on the screen is a few pictures of the meetings that Jennifer was talking about, where essentially they kicked off a book club to have everybody read parts and come back and report on them with various presentations. And it sounds like interactive and creative presentations. That's impressive.
Well, that's part of the voting. So everybody votes about how creative it is. And at the end of the year, whoever has the most creative will get a prize.
Oh, very nice. I like that. This is by the way, this is on Jennifer covers this fully on a previous webinar. We'll put the link in the chat. And here you can see the Tom Jeopardy. And put a link in the chat and so that you can see how to take a look. Oh, there's the creative ratings that you see there. so that you can take a look and see how you can implement it within your group. Yeah, so reminder in the chat box from Nick Ramphos, the no code director, that each state DOT does have access to the TOM, up to 5 user links. It's in PDF version, and so if you're unsure how to get it through your DOT, there's a designated librarian at every DOT, but we know that not everybody knows that. So feel free to reach out to Nick. His email's there in the chat. If you do not know who your designated librarian is at your DOT, you can reach out to Nick and he will help find out who that person is, so that you can make sure that you and your teams are accessing the manual. That's for state DOTs, because it's an AASHTO publication. Every state DOT gets 5. I'm going to bring up the polling real quick to take a look at where all of you are at. It looks like more and more people on our webinars are viewing the TOM. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box there. But a lot of you have more access to the TOM and its abilities. Here's more and more of you are reading it. That's almost 75% who either have read parts of it or it's sitting on your desktop, which is good news. And again, if for those of you who don't access, or hopefully now you know what the TOM is, feel free to reach out. And then we'll go through some of the gaps, and then which section of the TOM will be useful. Sort of seeing everything here split. I think that reflects, and I'm looking at question 4 here on the screen, of how it's almost, pretty even across the board of what aspects of the TOM are going to be valuable to you and your team. And that really reflects the purpose of the TOM, which is to be this all-encompassing manual for all things operations. So if you're looking for new trends and technologies, it's in there. If you're looking for tactical elements, it's in there. If you're looking for program development, it's in there. So no matter where your agency might be at as it relates to TISMO or implementation, or no matter where your team is at, we hope that there are resources in there that'll support it. And the goal of today was to also show you how NOCO and AASHTO's CTSO committee can also help support your use of the TOM as a team. And then some of the critical agency gaps that were brought up, integrating TISMO into project development, design, and delivery, equity-related issues. That's a great topic. Our first webinar covered why and how DEI is included into the operations manual, and outlines various areas where it is. So I encourage everybody to take a look of that recording. It's John Hibbard gave the overview there, and it's a 10-minute presentation, fantastic first introduction into the TOM, and it covers that topic on equity-related issues. And after this webinar concludes, we'll make sure that you get all those links. Well, without any other questions that are in there in the chat box, we'll go ahead and conclude. Again, please reach out to myself or Nick Ramphos. His email is there for access issues to the TOM, and I'll follow up to everybody participated today and registered to let you know how you can access the TOM, how you can access the short videos that have been created to help support your use of the TOM, and then as well as the presentations on how you can participate in upcoming meetings about the TOM itself and how it'll evolve over time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.